Good morning student, I am Mahima. Today I am going to tell you something about gravitation, which is a very important topic of science. Okay, and if we are talking about gravitation, gravitation is something which is related to our daily life. Okay, so when we are talking about gravitation, first we have to know what is gravitation. Okay, so gravitation is something, gravitation is also known as a force of gravitation, or we can also say that gravitation force. If any object is falling down from a height, then it always attracts towards the earth. How? There is a force, okay, that is gravitational force. Gravitational force is something which attracts every object. Gravitational force is something, or we can say a force. Gravitational force is a force which attracts every mass towards the center of the earth. Okay, so the force involved in pulling any object towards the center of the earth is called as gravitational force. We also call gravitational force as force of gravitation. Okay, so if we are talking about gravitational force, we should also know about universal law of gravitation. Universal law of gravitation. Universal law of gravitation, in this, first we have to know that universal law of gravitation is given by Sir Isaac Newton in 1687. Okay, so universal law of gravitation is considered as a very important law in gravitation. Okay, according to Sir Isaac Newton, he proved that how any object falls towards the earth or center of the earth. So, according to universal law of gravitation, every mass attracts every other mass towards the center of the earth. Okay, where force is directly proportional to the mass of two objects, masses of two objects, and inversely proportional to the distance between those two objects. Inversely proportional to the square of the distance between those two objects, which is shown by this. Force is directly proportional to mass of two objects, and force is inversely proportional to square of the distance between them. If it's a object A and it is a object B, mass of A is considered to be capital M, mass of B is considered to be small m, and the distance between these two objects must be D. So according to universal law of gravitation, force between them is directly proportional to the mass of product of the masses, okay, product of their masses, and force is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between these two objects. Okay, if we consider it in both these equations, then according to this, F is proportional to m small m upon b square. Okay, now we have proportionality symbol. So to remove this proportionality symbol, we must consider a constant. Okay, so here is force is proportional. So this proportionality symbol should be interchanged into equals to by applying gravitation constant, which is G. Okay, gravitation constant G. G is known as constant of gravity, gravitation or gravitational constant. The value of G is equal to 6.673 into 10 to the power minus 11 Newton meter square per kilogram square. Okay, this is the unit of gravity, Newton meter square per kilogram square, and the value of gravitation constant is 6.673 into 10 to the power minus 11. Okay, students. Now, when we are saying this, so the unit of force is Newton. Okay, unit of force, or we can say that standard international unit. SI unit of force is Newton. SI stands for standard international. Standard international means the unit which is considered internationally. Okay. So SI unit of force is Newton, and gravitation constant is 6.673 into 10 to the power minus 11 Newton meters per kilogram square. Okay. So here I have told you about gravitation force and universal law of gravitation. Okay. Gravitation law, that means universal law of gravitation, or third law of motion, they are similar. Okay, they are similar. They are not exactly same, but they are similar to each other. But there are also some differences. According to universal law of gravitation, every mass attracts each other. Every mass attracts each other towards the center of the earth. But according to third law of motion, each and every object attract each other. But, or we can say that apply equal and opposite force in the opposite direction. So they are similar, but they are not exactly same. Okay. Universal law of gravitation or third law of motion are somewhat similar, but they are not same. Okay, students. Universal law of gravitation says that every mass attracts every other mass, whereas third law of motion says each and every object applies equal and opposite force in the opposite direction. Okay class, that's all for today. Thank you students.